Good evening. Thanks for joining us this Friday. I'm Hilna Krishnamurthy and these are tonight's top stories. New agreement on LRT3 signed today. 4.2 million ringgit worth of drugs seized in MMEA's largest haul. And Chelsea banned from signing players. Hello there. The Light Rail Transit Line 3 LRT3 project is back on track with the signing of an innovation agreement today. In a media conference today, Finance Minister Lim Guan Eng said that his ministry will help fund and guarantee the now priced reduced 16.63 billion ringgit project and ensure its completion by February 28, 2024. The signing of the innovation agreement between Prasarana Malaysia Berhad, MRCB George Canson John Berhad and 9 work package contractors was witnessed by the Finance Minister, Transport Minister Anthony Loke Siu Fok and Federal Territories Minister Khalid Abdul Samad.
Saya ingin menjelaskan bahawa Prasarana hanya perlu membayar 760 juta ringgit dan bukannya 808 juta ringgit seperti yang dilaporkan oleh setengah media dalam bulan lepas. Ini adalah kerana kerja bernilai 48.6 juta ringgit telah pun dirasionalisasikan. Daripada 760 juta ringgit tersebut, Prasarana telah membayar MRCB George Kent sebanyak 504 juta ringgit. Baki 255 juta ringgit.
The length of the new line is maintained at 37.6 kilometers, but the number of stations has been reduced from 26 stations to 20. The 5 stations are listed as future stations. Meanwhile, park and ride facilities were reduced from 6,000 to 2,300 bays, and the number of trains were revised from 42 sets of 6-car trains to 22 sets of 3-car trains. This has allowed the final project cost to be reduced from 31.65 billion ringgit to 16.63 billion, which is 47% lower. As for the country's debt, the finance minister said it still remains above the trillion ringgit. However, the government, he said, has managed to reduce the previous national debt of 1.087 trillion ringgit, but not by a substantial amount.
If you want to include the commitments that have to be paid by the government, for example, the 1NUE payments, these are all balance sheet. So we have to look at the actual debt that we are now paying. So if you look at the official definition under IMF, where it involves the government has a direct borrower, vis-a-vis where we are guarantors, and these guarantors have also been due. That means we are already paying because the primary borrower cannot pay. YNDB is a very good example.
In May last year, the Pakatan Harapan administration expected to reduce the national debt by several measures, including reviewing mega projects and dissolving some agencies.
Muhammad Hussein, Sir Muhammad Imran, Muhammad Salim, CEO.
And now in Johor, the Batu Pahat Maritime Zone Malaysian Maritime Enforcement Agency MMEA foiled a bid by a man to smuggle 30 kilograms of drugs valued at 4.2 million ringgit out of the country. Described as the largest seizure by the agency so far, the drugs, believed to be crystal methamphetamine, were hidden inside Chinese tea packages. The suspect was arrested in a raid yesterday at the Parit Jawa River estuary, where the MMEA also seized the drugs, a fibre boat, a Nissan Sentra car, as well as several mobile phones. Johor MMEA Director First Admiral Aminuddin Abdul Rashid said the arrest and seizure were the result of a 3-month surveillance. Initial investigations revealed that the suspect tried to smuggle the drugs out of the country's borders for sale. The suspect faces the death penalty if convicted for possession of the drugs. The case has been submitted to the agency's Batu Pahat Maritime Zone Investigation Unit to be probed under the Dangerous Drugs Act. A group of robbers on motorbikes armed with parangs tarried a man after they tried to ambush his house in Serdang, Selangor, just as he was about to leave home in his car yesterday. Upon realizing the situation, the victim quickly got out of his car, ran into his house and locked the entrance door, which angered the robbers in the afternoon incident. District Police Chief Assistant Commissioner Ismadi Borhan said 2 of the 7 gang members tried to follow the victim into his house, located in Bukit Kuchai, Bandar Kinrara, but failed. Angered by the victim's quick thinking, the robbers then banged the door before smashing one of the house windows with parangs and punctured the victim's Suzuki Swift car tires. Ismadi said the robbers fled the scene after the victim and his family members started crying out for help. Fortunately, no one was hurt in the incident. Police are now trying to identify the suspects through CCTV footage, which have gone viral on social media. Several netizens claim that the same gang was believed to be involved in another armed robbery in Taman Sri Medan, Klang on the same day. The case is being investigated under the Penal Code for attempted robbery. Back in the gruesome murder of 11-year-old Siti Masita, an unemployed Cambodian man was charged at the Rompin Magistrates Court today. No plea was recorded from the accused 23-year-old Muhammad Amirul Abdullah from Kampong Parit Tengah, Pekan, when the charge was read before Magistrate Azizah Ahmad. According to the charge sheet, Muhammad Amirul was accused of murdering Siti Masita between 5:50 p.m. to 8 p.m. in Kampong Tanjong Medang Hilir, Pekan on January 30th. He was charged under Section 302 of the Penal Code for murder, which carries the death penalty upon conviction. The magistrate set March 25th for remention. According to the police, Siti Masita's remains were discovered at about 4 p.m. on February 9th, and the murder was believed to have taken place about a week prior. She was reported missing by her family at 5 p.m. on the same day she was believed to be murdered. A male suspect was then arrested at 2 a.m. the next day to assist in the investigation of the missing child. He subsequently admitted to having killed Siti Masita out of revenge. Post-mortem found that the victim suffered severe injuries to her head, which then led to her death. The Kuala Lumpur Sessions Court was today told that the case of former Prime Minister Datuk Sri Najib Tun Razak involving 3 additional charges of money laundering of SRC international funds has been transferred to the High Court. Deputy Public Prosecutor Manoj Kurup informed Sessions Court Judge Azura Alwi today of the matter. Manoj said on February 11th, High Court Judge Muhammad Nazlan Muhammad Ghazali had allowed the prosecution's application to have the case transferred from the Sessions Court to the High Court. However, the mentioned date at the High Court has yet to be fixed, with Judge Azura then transferring the case to the High Court. The Pekan MP faces a maximum fine of 5 million ringgit or imprisonment of up to 5 years, or both if found guilty. Meanwhile, in the High Court, Judge Muhammad Nazlan fixed March 13 for Datuk Sri Najib's case management relating to 7 charges involving SRC international funds, amounting to 42 million ringgit, after Attorney General Tommy Thomas applied for the date when the case came up for mention today. Thomas, who is leading the prosecution team, also informed the court that the former Premier's appeal had been fixed for hearing on March 11th and 12th at the Court of Appeal. Also, the ongoing inquest into the death of firefighter Muhammad Adib Muhammad Qasim will proceed unimpeded, as the Court of Appeal today denied an application to temporarily stay the proceedings. Judge Dato' Umi Kaltum Abdullah Majid, who chaired a 3-man panel, adjourned to March 4th the hearing of the stay application from the Safe Seafield Mariaman Temple Task Force, ruling that the inquest is of public interest. Earlier, lawyer M. Viswanathan sought an interim stay of the ongoing inquest pending the hearing of the stay, but was objected. Deputy Public Prosecutor Datuk Muhammad Dusuki Mokhtar insisted that the inquest must proceed until April 12th as scheduled by the Coroner's Court. The Court of Appeal then adjourned the hearing of the stay to March 4th to enable the Temple Task Force to file an affidavit of its legal position in the application, and for the Attorney General's chambers to file an affidavit in reply to the stay application. So far, the coroner's court has heard the testimony of 13 witnesses during the past 8 days of the proceedings. On February 13, the Temple Task Force filed an appeal at the Court of Appeal against the High Court ruling of February 8, upholding the decision of the coroner's court, which had rejected the Temple Task Force's application to hold a watching brief at the inquest. However, the hearing of the appeal has yet to be fixed. PAS today vowed to keep its pledge to support the leadership of Tun Dr. Mahathir Mohamad should there be a vote of no confidence against the Prime Minister as speculated. Its President, Datuk Sri Abdul Hadi Awang, said that though PAS was an opposition party, it supported Tun Dr. Mahathir for the latter to continue with the Islamic leadership in government.
Kalau tak ada angin tak goyang pokok.
Jadi PAS ada maklumat mengenai benda tu tadi?
Ya, kita ada maklumat. Dengan sebab itulah kita beri sokongan tu.
Kita tetap akan sokong lah.
Kita akan sokong. Sekarang sokong walaupun dalam keadaan menjadi pembangkang. Ini kepentingan kepimpinan orang Islam. Ini penting.
The PAS president spoke to the media at his residence after delivering the Friday morning lecture in Marang, Terengganu. He was asked to comment on the statement yesterday in Kuala Lumpur by Tun Dr. Mahathir, who said he wanted to see whether PAS would keep its pledge to support him should there be a vote of no confidence against him. The issue of the speculated vote of no confidence emerged after PAS Secretary General Datuk Taqiyuddin Hassan alleged there was a plot within the ruling Pakatan Harapan coalition of 4 parties to oust Tun Dr. Mahathir as Prime Minister. Coming up after the break, US socialite attacks family over baby photo shoot.
No, she's crazy. She is crazy.
You're crazy.
Welcome back. A weekend motorcycle ride turned ugly for 3 cousins when one of them was pierced in the neck with a bamboo in a freak accident in Kampong Bonggol, Bukit Sawah, Bukit Bakar, Kelantan today. Muhammad Asri Ajeman, aged 17, bled to death in the incident which occurred about 9 a.m.
Pakcik tu bawa bulu saya ingat. Dengan motor juga. Lepas tu saya elok masuk lerok dah ni. Lepas tu kena dia jatuh situ. Adik dia pun ada saya belakang.
Adik dia menunggang motor tu?
Ayah duduk belakang. Duduk belakang. Lepas tu kena tu adik dia tunggu lalu.
Meanwhile, acting Machang District Police Chief ASP Muhammad Shamshuri Muhammad Zain said Muhammad Asri was riding pillion with 18-year-old Muhammad Fitri Rosdi while another cousin trailed behind on another motorcycle. He said they were on the motorcycles when another rider who was carrying bamboo poles on his shoulder appeared from the opposite direction. Muhammad Fitri attempted to avoid the oncoming motorcycle, but the bamboo pole pierced Muhammad Asri's neck. Muhammad Asri's body was then sent to Machang Hospital for post-mortem. Now, moving on to our daily segment Clickbait, where we take a look at what's trending and making rounds in the cyber world today. Stomach-churning case of animal abuse. A 6-month-old puppy in Korea was found in a tragic condition by an animal welfare group with its mouth slashed on both sides. Either slit with a blade or burned open with fire, the cut was shaped into a twisted grin, similar to the Joker, the supervillain from Batman. Animal cruelty, however, or any kind of abuse for that matter, is no joke. Details on the discovery were uploaded on Facebook, and it can be seen that the dog isn't doing very well. Besides the inhumane laceration, the poor animal also had open burns on her legs and infected wounds on her paws. Her smashed and jagged toenails made it difficult for her to rub herself, resulting in the cuts and wounds. She is also unable to walk properly as her front right leg was found broken, causing her to stagger with a limp. According to the Post, the situation was more heartbreaking when the puppy was found. Her mouth was tied shut, preventing her from eating or drinking, but the swellings and infections found inside her mouth made it even more difficult. Despite all the abuse the dog has suffered, her rescuers say she remains friendly and welcoming to humans, even wagging her tail when they call her name. Luckily now, the retriever is in safe hands, and she is expected to make a gradual recovery. On a side note, let's hope that the people behind such evil act get some good justice. Now updated as of 7 p.m, here are the top trending topics and searches on the internet today. When we return, tensions escalate as Maduro closes border with Brazil. Details next. We're back with the foreign front. Myanmar leader Aung San Suu Kyi called for investment in the crisis-hit western state of Rakhine on Friday during her rare visit to Rakhine State Investment Fair at Ngapali Beach in Tanwe. In her speech, she pledged to make Myanmar more investment-friendly as her government attempts to reverse a drop in foreign investment and tourism from the West since the Rohingya exodus sparked global outrage. She trailed the promise of tourism, manufacturing, and specifically the oil and gas sector as one of the shining assets of Rakhine State. Participants from India, Japan, Korea, Thailand, and China were in attendance, with the latter building a massive port in the south of Rakhine and pipelines running through the strategically important state. Suu Kyi blamed the international community for focusing narrowly on negative aspects related to problems in the northern part of the state, rather than potential to uplift Rakhine through development. Rakhine, a vast stretch of arable land covering Myanmar's western flank with offshore oil and gas deposits and a long coastline, is also one of the country's poorest states. It has been scarred by ethnic and religious conflict, with hundreds of thousands of Rohingya and other Muslims still trapped in camps and villages in Rakhine, where their movements and access to services are restricted. On to the ongoing political rift in Venezuela. In a televised address on Thursday, President Nicolas Maduro ordered an absolute closure of the country's border with Brazil, crushing the opposition leader Juan Guaido's efforts to allow humanitarian aid from the U.S. to pass through. The embattled socialist leader seems desperate to stop any kind of aid from coming in after maritime borders with the Dutch Caribbean islands of Aruba, Curacao and Bonaire were also closed prior to this. Now he claims the possibility of a total closure of the border with Colombia, where the aid is being warehoused.
Calling the aid a provocation and a child's game, Maduro strongly believes it's a precursor to a U.S. military intervention in the oil-rich but economically crippled Latin American country. Guaido, who is recognized by dozens of countries as Venezuela's legitimate head of state, was poised for a showdown with Maduro's government on Sunday, as both Brazil and Colombia remain firm on delivering aid under Guaido's lead. The opposition leader, who is now at the Colombian border, said he enlisted hundreds of thousands of volunteers to bring in aid in defiance of Maduro's blockade, claiming 300,000 people could die if the blockade continued. This as major blockades are seen at roads and checkpoints with hundreds of soldiers at the border. The Brazilian government said it will go ahead with the airlifting of aid and stockpile non-perishable food in the border town of Pacaraima. Many Venezuelans are said to have crossed into this town to stock on supplies shortly before the border closed. Meanwhile, Colombian President Ivan Duque has stood by his promise to help aid arrive, and presidents from Chile and Paraguay will be in attendance in Colombia for an aid concert for Venezuela.
On to sports news. English Premier League side Chelsea has been banned by world governing body FIFA from signing players for the next 2 transfer windows. The sanction comes after FIFA found them guilty of a serious and systemic breach of the rules regarding their dealings with foreign players under the age of 18. The ban until the end of January 2020 does not prevent the release of players and will not apply to their women's and futsal teams. The Premier League club have said they will appeal against the decision. Chelsea have also been fined £460,000, while the Football Association has been fined £390. FIFA's disciplinary committee found breaches in 29 cases out of 92 investigated related to violations regarding the registration of minors at the London Outfits Academy. Chelsea is not the first club to fall foul of FIFA's regulations surrounding the transfer of minors. Barcelona, Real Madrid and Atletico Madrid have all been sanctioned in recent years. And as 7Edition draws to a close, we leave you with the movie trailer of Rocketman, a musical fantasy about the uncensored human story of Elton John's breakthrough years. I'm Helena Krishnamurthy. Thanks for watching and have a great weekend. Good night.